The winter 2022 season is about to start, and with it comes a whole new collection of anime titles. And I thought it was a good time to go and take a look at what the new season has to offer to us. So I went to my anime list and picked out all the new titles and sequels of things I've already watched, and I will divide them in one of 6 categories to get a good look at what we can expect from the first season of the new year. These are the 6 categories I will be going with today, and they should probably speak for themselves. Starting out with the first title is the only sequel on this list, which is Attack on Titan, the final season, part 2. I'm gonna go ahead and put Attack on Titan in the hype category. I started watching the show when it just came out, which is over 7 years ago, which is absurd. Seeing it come to its conclusion is pretty much hype worthy for me. I can't go over the summary without spoiling quite a lot, so if you want to know what Attack on Titan or the final season part 2 is about, I suggest looking it up yourself. The next show on the list is Sono Biscadol wa Koi wo Suru. Traumatized by a childhood incident with a friend who took exception to his love of traditional dolls, doll artisan hopeful Wakana Gojo passes his days as a loner, finding solace in the homeroom at his school. To Wakana, people like beautiful Marin Kitagawa, a trendy girl who's always surrounded by a throng of friends, is practically an alien from another world. But when cheerful Marin, never one to be shy, spots Wakana sewing one day after school, she barges in with the aim of roking her quiet classmate into her secret hobby, cosplay. Will Wakana's wounded heart be able to handle the invasion of the sexy alien? Honestly, this sounds kind of wholesome. Like this guy who has some trauma to go through and is dealing with a lot of stuff. And then there's this popular girl that just tries to take him under her wing into her hobby, and which is cosplay, which lines up with things he likes to do. He likes making dolls, so why not make cosplay for someone? So I'm gonna put this in sounds good. If this is on Crunchyroll, I will genuinely like to check it out. Next up is Tensai Oji no Akaji Koka Saisei Jutsu. It ain't easy being a genius, but who can blame him? Faced with an impossible task of ruling his pathetic little kingdom, this poor guy just can't catch a break. But with his brilliant idea of auctioning off his country, this lazy prince should be able to retire once and for all, or that was the plan, until his treasonous schemes lead to disastrous consequences. Oh boy. Namely, accidental victories and the favor of his people. Not gonna lie, seeing someone just come up with a scheme and completely failing is always funny, but I'm not entirely sure how this is gonna play out, so I'm gonna put this in this could be either way. Next up is Sasaki to Miyano. Miyano spends his days peacefully reading boys' love comics and worrying about how girly his face is until a chance encounter leads to a scuffle with his senior, Sasaki. Intrigued by his feisty junior Miyano, delinquent Sasaki uses every opportunity he can get to get closer. Oh, this is a boys' love one. Oh, I love that. There was a really good one in the fall season. Oh, this sounds so cute. Gonna put this in, sounds good, just for the sake of it. The next show is Kenja no Dashi wo Nanoro Kenja. Sakimoto Kagami plays a VR MMORPG called Arch-Earth Online. He is a veteran player with a name and appearance similar to an elderly bearded wizard from a certain book about a ring. Oh, nice. One day he purchases an appearance change item as a last resort to spend expiring currency, and gets the idea of choosing what he would want to look like if his character was ever a girl. Falling asleep should have suspended the game, but Kagami wakes up still online and feels the game has gotten a bit more realistic. Did Arch-Earth Online finally get a long-awaited update? So basically, this is Sword Art Online if the game was Lord of the Rings. There is a reason that I put this category in, but this actually sounds kind of fun. I know it's an isekai, but that genuinely sounds really fun. I genuinely think I'm gonna check that out. That sounds a lot of fun. Next show is Shikakumon no Saikyu Kenja. In a world of magic, the powers and future of a mage are predetermined at birth through so-called marks, or symbols that categorize a human's aptitude for magic. Lamenting the fact that his mark was considered ill-suited for combat and only useful for magic augmentation, an incredible skilled sage decided to reincarnate thousands of years in the future. Reborn as Matthias Haldesheimer, a 6-year-old boy and a third son of a duke's family, he attains the mark of a close combat he always desired. Unfortunately, it has also discovered that mankind's knowledge of magic and swordsmanship has drastically deteriorated in this era. Only shoddy magic equipment can be sporadically found, while even the most basic spells have been forgotten. To add insult to injury, his current mark, once hailed as the most powerful, is now viewed as the worst. When Matthias becomes 12 years old, his unrivaled swordsmanship lands him in the Second Royal Academy. Shattering prejudices, he promptly makes ripples in the academy and beyond. However, the former sage uncovers signs of dark forces working in the shadows. But with humanity weaker than ever, it's up to Matthias to thwart their evil plans. So it's an isekai. I know it sounds kind of interesting, but also it's just another isekai. I feel like I've seen this specific. I feel like I've seen this before. Next up is Baruo no Soretsu. The crown of England has been hotly contested throughout history, and in the Middle Ages, a series of great civil wars have become known as the War of the Roses. Claiming a right to the throne, the Duke of York seeks to unseat King Henry VI and his heir in order to become king himself. On a dark day filled with many ill omens, the Duke gains a son, Richard Plantagenet. Neither male or female, but instead possessing characteristics of both sexes, Richard III is immediately reviled by his mother. Her hatred defines his childhood, leading to a deep disgust towards his own body and an adverse reaction to being called a demon. Richard grows up troubled by visions of England's former foe Joan of Arc, with taunts that he will bring ruin to all who know him. He believes that he can attain salvation by helping his father achieve his destiny of becoming the king. However, cursed by the expectations of both his mother and Joan, will Richard's actions instead drag his family down into darkness? Oh, okay, so from what I gather, he is born as intersex. He's facing a lot of what I can describe transphobia, but he still wants to do what's best. This sounds like a genuinely interesting plot. Yeah, I'm gonna put this in sounds good because it sounds genuinely really good, but I just hope that they are sensitive about the topic, you know? Next up is Orient. 5 years ago, Musashi made a promise with his friend Kojiro Kanamaki that once they grow up, they will become samurai, form a league, and go on a demon slaying quest. But since then, the things have changed. With demons now being praised and worshipped by society, the samurai are shunned and disgraced. Afraid of revealing his dream of becoming a samurai, Musashi blends into the town's dogma by becoming a miner while secretly polishing his swordsmanship. Meanwhile, despite being a direct descendant of the samurai, Kojiro gives up on his promise to his old friend. However, after saving Musashi from a near-death experience, his perspective shifts. Although still conflicted, Kojiro embarks on a journey with Musashi in the hopes of figuring out his true feelings. Ooh. Fighting against all odds, the duo dives headfirst into the unknown world of beast slaying, not knowing what life has in store for them. Now astride iron horses, the 15-year-old heroes plan to restore the tarnished reputation of the samurai and purge the world of demons. This sounds genuinely really good. And especially as this type of shonen seems to be really the thing right now, I think this one could be really good. So I'm gonna put this in sounds good. I'm not precisely hyped, but it sounds good. The next one is Akebi-chan no Seirefuku, which is a slice of life. It looks really cute. If this is in the same category as Komi Can't Communicate, I think this is gonna be a really nice one. Akabi Komichi lives in the countryside with a family. She's won entrance to the prestigious Robot Academy Middle School for girls, and now she wants only two things: to wear the school's sailor uniform and to make 100 friends. Yeah, look, this is in a similar category as Komi Can't Communicate. This sounds adorable. I'm gonna put this in sounds good as well. Next show is Koroshi Ai, and from what I can see on this art, it looks fantastic. The silent and stoic Chateau Dankworth is a bounty hunter. Her target, Son Ryangha, a notorious killer known for killing 18 high-class officials in a single night. To this day, his murders remain swift, efficient, and bloody. However, after Son Ryangha overpowers Chateau in her first encounter, he reveals his own intentions. He, too, is after her, aiming for her heart. Son Ryangha attempts to catch her eye are quite unique, to say at least. He offers her gifts in the form of the current targets, tied up and battered, and will do anything to spend more time together. Reluctantly, Chateau goes along with this act, and so begins the cat and mouse game of love between two killers. I was on board with a female bounty hunter kind of thing, but then it took a turn that I was like, this is overly romance. I'm not completely a fan of that. So I am putting this in this could be either way. I'm not immediately dismissing it so far because I will have to see something of it to really judge. But my feeling is that this is not gonna be my cup of tea. Next up is Sabikui Bisco. A plague-like wind blows across the arid, sandy expanse of a post-apocalypse Japan. As it sweeps over the living and non-living alike, rust is all that remains in its wake. The cause of the catastrophic state of the world is believed to be mushroom spores. Bisco Akaboshi, known as the man-eating mushroom, is a wanted criminal archer whose arrows instantly grow mushrooms wherever they land. However, he is in truth a mushroom protector, a person who spreads fungi in order to enrich the land and return it to its previous state. Alongside the crab Akatsugawa and young Dr. Milo Neko Yanagi, Bisco ventures through the wastelands of Japan searching for a legendary sabukui, a Panasian mushroom said to devour all forms of rust. Oh, that sounds awesome actually. It's such a unique concept as well. I've not heard of that before. So I'm putting it in sounds good because it generally sounds good, and I genuinely hope that they execute it well, because then a concept like this can be awesome. The next title is Lidil no Daichi Nite. After an horrific accident puts her on life support, the last vestige of freedom Kaina Kagami had was in a VR MMORPG world of Lidil. When she wakes up in the body of her game avatar, finds that the worries of her old life appear to be the thing of the past, but somehow this new land doesn't seem to be quite the Lidil she remembers. So it's not isekai. I kind of like the theme of someone who is incredibly wounded and has not a lot of quality of life anymore, being able to find refuge in a VR world to still be able to live a life. It might not be real, but still live a life. But I feel like this is gonna be in a similar category as Sword Art Online, and we all know how that went downhill. It could be either way. It can just be another isekai, or it can be legitimately good. I'll just have to see an episode for myself to make sure. The next show is Dolls Frontline. After the Third World War, nations devastated by biological warfare no longer have the ability to protect the wastelands. So the defense of these territories is left to private military companies like Griffin and Kruger, whose android soldiers or tactical dolls are tasked with fighting the rogue android army of the Sancfist Ferry. Now M4A1, the indecisive but potentially capable leader of the elite anti-Rain team, must protect her comrades in a series of operations to try and regain the upper hand against Sancfist Ferry. So this seems to be like a military kind of anime, and after 86 I've grown to love military, and especially like the sci-fi kind of sci. So I'm gonna put this in sounds good, because it generally sounds good and it's something I would enjoy, especially after 86. The next show is Fantasy Bishoujo Uniku Oji Santo. A dull old man and his handsome best friend were summoned to another world by a naked goddess. However, because of the goddess mischief, he has turned into a peerless, beautiful girl. To get back his body, he has to go on a journey with his best friend to defeat the Demon King, an old man that became a beautiful girl and a handsome old man. Let the madness-filled rom-com journey to another world begin. It could be fun, but it's just another isekai, you know? Okay, moving on. Slow Loop. When Hijiri, a young girl whose deceased father taught her the joys of fishing, headed out to the sea for some alone time, she never thought that she would encounter another girl there. After a while, this girl, named Koharu, and her end up fishing and cooking together, and they get to know each other bit by bit in the meantime. During their brief time together, Koharu finds out that the reason Hijiri went out to the sea that day was because she was hesitant towards meeting her new stepfamily the same evening. But what a coincidence! Koharu is also meeting her new family tonight. No, it can't be a coincidence. Follow these two sisters and a new life together. That sounds so wholesome. That sounds so wholesome and amazing, to be honest. I want to watch that. Just some good vibes only, you know? And especially when it's good vibes when dealing with bad vibes. That's the stuff. That's a sweet spot. Moving on to Tokyo 24-ku. An artificial island in Tokyo Bay, Kyokuto Horigai Tokubetsu-chiku, a Far East Special District, commonly known as the 24-ku or the 24th Ward. Childhood friends Ren, Koku, and Shuta, who were born and raised there, have different family backgrounds, hobbies, personalities, but always hung out together. However, their relationship changes drastically in the wake of a certain incident. At the first anniversary memorial of the incident, the three friends happen to meet again, and their phones begin to ring simultaneously. The phone call is from the supposedly dead friend, Shit, urging them to come choose the future. The three will try to protect the beloved 24 Ward and the future of the people in their own ways. Oh dang! That sounds... Okay, so this one is on the edge of what I would put into high, because that sounds awesome, mysterious, weird, and just in a way more unique. You don't see plots like this very often, and I'm very curious to what they're gonna bring with this one. The next title is Futsal Boys. The franchise story is set in a world over a decade after futsal has skyrocketed the global popularity. Protagonist Haru Yamato watches the championship of the U18 World Cup and is inspired by a Japanese player named named Tokinari Tennoji. He joins the Koyo Academy High School's futsal team with the goal of becoming a player like Tennoji. There, he finds friends and together they face their rivals. I like sports anime. After watching Haikyuu, I love sports anime, and I genuinely think that this could be also very wholesome. I'm legit excited to watch that. If I have the time, we'll definitely check this out. Next up is Hakuzumai Koban Joshi no Kyakushu. I tried. Female police officer Kawaii had enough of a career she wasn't even that into and was about to hand in her registration, I think it's her resignation, when the unthinkable happened. She met the new female director of her station, and after spending a little time with this gorgeous role model, Kawaii realizes that she might not be quite done with being an officer after all. This sounds pretty gay. I mean, either it's very gay or it's very wholesome where women help each other out and just draw inspiration from each other. Either way, that's some good stuff. That's some really good stuff. Then we have Tribe 9. Haru Shirogane is a weak-minded person who is constantly bullied, while Taiga has traveled from across the sea in hopes of becoming the strongest man in the world. One night, the two meet up with Shun Kamiya, the brightest XB extreme baseball player and leader of the Minato tribe. When they meet, each of the tribes scattered throughout the Neo Tokyo are about to face a major threat. On the orders of the king of Neo Tokyo, Hotenshin, the Chiyoda tribe, led by the mysterious Ojiro Otori, has started to take control of all the tribes in the country. The evil clutches are about to reach the Minato tribe. So this seems to be like a sci-fi sports anime. I've never really heard about a combination like that. That sounds awesome. And I'm gonna put that in sounds good. Moving on to Kaijin Kaihatsubo no Koroitsu-san. Toka Koroitsu is a research assistant who belongs to the monster development department of the evil organization Agastya. However, the enemy she has to fight right now isn't the heroes of justice, but her boss. Oh dear. So long justice exists, evil will too. This is a story of those who fight secretly in the shadows of justice and evil's confrontation. So like, this is gonna be a story from the perspective of the bad guys, but the bad guys showing like, hey, even the bad guys have limits and morals. And bad guys also have horrible bosses. I'm putting this could be either way, because it can both be really awesome or it can be really cheesy and predictable. So I'm gonna have to watch an episode to really figure it out. The next anime is Ryman's Club. Ryman's Club is set in the badminton business group, depicting the two different aspects of daily life as a salaryman, as well as the growth and conflict as players. The anime follows Mikoto Shiratori, a prodigy badminton player who suffers from a trauma following a loss at the Inter-High tournament. He becomes a salaryman at the Sunlight Beverage Company and befriends Tatsuro Miyazumi, the best performing player and salesman in the team. Also, this is interesting. Most sports anime take place in high school and are typically shonen anime, but this seems to be a seinen, or at least more an adult anime, where the protagonist is originally an high school athlete, quits because of something happening, and then in adult life actually picks it back up. I kind of dig that. So where am I gonna put it? I think it sounds good. It's something else. I don't know what else to say than it generally sounds good. Next up is Genso Sakokushi Stengen Reishinki. The story is set during the Three Kingdoms period in China, where various warlords and their armies attempt to conquer and unify the nation. The struggles of these mighty martial heroes attract the attention of the Moryu King, the monstrous sovereign of evil spirits, who wishes to prolong the conflict and destroy the human world. So that sounds like historical fiction with fantasy mixed in. It could be cool, but I'm not completely sure. So I'm putting it in this could be either way. Next up is Sayuki Reload, Zeroin. Once the land of Togenkyo was a peaceful land where humans and yokai lived together. Then, however, men appeared who tried to revive Gyumao, the great yokai who was slain by the war god Notoka Taishi and buried in the Hoto castle 500 years ago by using a forbidden combination of chemistry and magic. The negative energy waves this created spread across Togenkyo, causing the yokai to go insane and attack humanity. To save the land, Kanzinyon Bosatsu ordered Son Goku, Genjo Sasuno Sa Gojo, and Chohakai to go west. The four set out on a journey to stop the experiment to revive Gyomao. On the way, they meet Hazel Grouse, who employs strange magic that uses yokai souls to revive the dead, and his follower Gato. Two of them join the party, and Ukuko Sancho, a man they have a long history with, approaches in the shadow. Unforgettable characters, intense personal drama, and an awesome action and story about the bonds between four men. I'm a little overwhelmed by how much is happening in the synopsis. I'm not sure I'm into it. There's so much happening in the synopsis and I can't follow it. There are so many characters introduced in the synopsis alone. This is, not really for me. Moving on to Q, an anime based on Library Entertainment's mobile game of the same name in which players train up-and-coming voice actors. That sounds interesting. The synopsis is not really really long, but if they really approach this in a good way, I think that could be really interesting because I like the art of voice acting. It sounds interesting. If they execute this well, this could be really fun, but the synopsis doesn't really give me enough to say more than that. The next anime is Sorairo Utility, and it has no synopsis, but what I can see on the art is that I think it's gonna be another sports anime. They're holding like a golf club, so I think it's like a shoujo golf anime. The art style looks really cute without being like cutesy and oversaturated. Honestly, I'm gonna put this in This Could Be Either Way. I think it looks good. I like sports anime, but I don't have more information than the art, so I can't put it higher than This Could Be Either Way. Then we have Kanashiki Debo Neko-chan. The anime story centers on the cat named Maru, adopted by a girl named Anna from a shelter in Matsuyama City. Loved and well fed by the family, Maru gets around her and fed her every day, spending most of his days sitting by the window and looking at the garden outside. When the family gets a new cat called Karishe and begins doting on it, Maru gets jealous. In a fight with Karishe, Maru is hurt by the family's words to him and follows the advice of another cat to leave and see the world. That sounds so cute! So I don't know how many of you have seen The Way of the House Husband, but some of the episodes are following his cat, and I find that extremely adorable. And this is gonna be a whole anime following a cat. I dig that. I dig that. That sounds incredible. So the next up is Saburo no Amorimi. It has no synopsis, but from what I can see on the art, it looks amazing. I like the art style. I like samurai swordsmanship anime. It's an historical samurai, and I dig it. But because I don't have any synopsis, I'm gonna put it in This Could Be Either Way. So next up is a quite goofy looking one. It's called On Air Dekinai. Set in 2014, the anime follows the adventures of 23-year-old Mafuneko, a newly minted assistant director who joins the TV production department at Tokyo Hachiko Television, only to discover that the glamorous and glitchy life of working behind the scenes making TV shows involves strange and inexplicable tasks, such as gathering 300 acorns and making a mosaic out of the images reflected in a camera lens? What? Despite being surrounded by chaos, setbacks, and weirdos, Mafuneko struggles to become a fully fledged TV producer. That sounds so interesting, actually. Like, it looks really goofy, and I think the goofy thing, I thought it was like a cookie, I don't know. It's a cat, and I think that's our protagonist. Interesting. Yeah, this could be like really fun. Next up is Atashi Kawajiri Kodamai Dario, Dangerous Life Hacker no Tadarate Saikatsu. The story depicts the lazy, unhealthy daily life of Kawajiri, who loves alcohol and anything greasy, salty, or sweet. Same. The next show is Ninjala TV. The year is 20XX. The ninja who once forged the history of Japan were scattered across the country during the Meiji Restoration. As these ninja mingled with the other clans, the bloodline thinned and they gradually faded from sight. The descendants of these ninja clans seeking to preserve their heritage formed the WNA, the World Ninja Association, in the hope of carrying out the legacy. And so it was that the WNA succeeded in developing Ninja Gum, an art which could summon forth the strength of the shinobi, and yet creating the most powerful ninja gum requires the strongest of ninja DNA. So it was that the Ninjala tournament was held that the mightiest of all ninjas could be found. So when I first saw this artwork, I thought it was like a children's cartoon that I watched when I was a kid and wasn't really into. But the story actually sounds pretty fun. But I'm not sure I'm like into like the combination between the artwork, the story, and my experience with like similar things. This could be either way, basically. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not entirely sure, but this could be either way. Next up is Delicious Party Precure. This is no synopsis or an official art piece, but a little bit of SE history here. So when I first started watching anime, and with that I mean consciously going out of my way to watch anime, like obviously I watched Pokemon and Bakugan and all that stuff. The thing I watched was Precure, or otherwise known as Pretticure. It's a magical girls show, and every show is basically a spin-off in the same universe following different girls. I watched pretty much from every show up until Small Precure back in, what was it, 2013, 2012? It was forever ago, but abandoned the entire franchise for years. But I see that there are still ones coming out nowadays, and this one caught my attention because Delicious Party would make me assume that the theme is a bakery, or like food in general. I'm curious to see how they will pull that off, especially as there are so many shows already, and how they will stay unique and original. It's just like, it could be either way. Like, either I'm gonna completely regret watching it, or I'm gonna love love it, but I'm definitely gonna check out an episode or two. Next up is Tales of Luminaria, The Fateful Crossroad. Long ago, this land was home to the beastly sides of mountains that have now become petrified. Mana overflowed from their remains, drawing people who sought its power, and civilization sprang up. People came to refer these mana-producing creatures, which they named primordial beasts, that built their lives around them, thus began the worship of the primordial beasts. Honestly, this sounds awesome. It's based on a game, so it's probably in the same franchise as Tales of Arise, and from what I've seen on Avenito streams, that game is amazing. So if this is the same franchise of series or whatever, that's gonna be very interesting, and I like the synopsis, so I'm gonna put it in. Sounds good. Next up is Inzai Aru Aru. The story centers on a 10-year-old girl named Chirisu Nishizumi who lives in the city, and an alien she meets after it crashes in the lands of Inzai. The alien needs Aru Aru energy to able to power back up its spaceship. I love alien stories. This is gonna be put in. Sounds good. I don't make the rules here. It's moving on. Next up is Demo Movie. Sakura no oto, anata no kanadeta oto ga ima wo hibiku. Demo is a mystic character who lives in solitude, a castle, all by itself. A little girl falls from the sky, not knowing who she is or where she comes from. To help the little girl back to her world, Demo comes to realize a tree keeps growing tall on top of the piano whenever it plays. What would Demo do whenever it gets comfortable with the companionship it never had? What if the little girl couldn't deal with the truth whenever her seemingly lost memories are regained? So this is a movie. I like movies for the sole reason that they are quick. The pacing is very different than anime shows, and everything is just in one go. With movies, I like the more abstract and obscure themes, and this movie seems to be hitting that sweet spot for me, because I'm like, I'm gonna watch that. I'm gonna go out of my way and make sure I watch that. I'm gonna eat my words when I don't, and you can all laugh at me, but it sounds really good. Next up is Chick Yugai Shonen Shoujo. In the year 2045, internet and artificial intelligence have become widespread in the outer space. Following a massive accident at the space station, a group of children are left behind. Using narrowband and SNS, low intelligence AI, and smartphone-controlled drones, they overcome numerous crises. That sounds really interesting, actually. The art looks awesome as well. I'm gonna put that in sounds good. I'm not precisely hyped, but it sounds really good. I also have to say that this is a two-parter movie. From what I saw earlier is that the first movie is coming out in January and the second movie is coming out in February. I have no idea how long they will be, but it's gonna be a two-parter series. Next up is Goodbye Donglees. The film depicts a miracle-like encounter of the Donglees boys. At the end of an adventure with friends that began during an unusual summer vacation, the boys arrive in Iceland, the land of flames and ice. What treasure have the boys found by looking at themselves and transcending the world? So when this movie was announced, I was immediately like, this sounds awesome. I need to watch that. But I forgot to write down when it would be coming out. I had something in my head that would be coming out last season, but it weren't. And now it does. And I'm gonna put this in hype because it has been on my mind for like months and months already. From all the art and such I saw, it looks amazing. The story is interesting and it's fake enough that there can be a really interesting artistic spin to it. Next up is Bang Dream Movie Popping Dream. It didn't seem like it would be a sequel to something or a special movie related to anything, but it also doesn't have a synopsis yet. The only thing I have is the title and the art looks kind of cute. So I'm gonna put this in. This could be either way because I don't know anything about it. And the title doesn't really say anything to me. Next up is Blue Thermal. Tamaki Tsuru, a freshman at Aonagi University, was overzealous about volleyball when she was in high school. Following a romantic rejection due to her being an athletic girl, she joined a tennis club in college to be less athletic. One day she accidentally hits Daisuke with a tennis ball as he was transporting a glider, causing damage to it. Tamaki was charged with a repair cost of 2 million yen, but as she couldn't pay the amount, she joins the Sport Association Aviation Club as a helper. This is kind of awesome. I'm unsure what the backstory has to do with all of this. Like, is that all to just make her a tennis player just so she can rack up an aviation club glider? That sounds really fake to me. Just make her someone who is into tennis and just have that happen, you know? Maybe in the movie itself it will become clear. But that sounds kind of wholesome, so I'm digging that. The next title is the last item on the list. The other two posters are there by accident. Please ignore them. And we aren't really ending on a high note because the last one is called Ensemble Stars Road Show and it has no synopsis as of yet. But from what I can tell from the art is I can see a group of boys, men, I'm almost unsure what the age is in anime, and they seem to be a music group. As it says Ensemble Stars, I think they're either rising to fame, already famous, touring. That's all I can think of when I see that poster. So I generally don't know anything about it, but music anime are kind of interesting, so I'm putting it in. This could be either way. And with that, that's the end of the list list, or my anime list depicting all the winter 2022 anime. From what I can tell is that winter 2022 is gonna be an amazing season for anime. Everything sounds genuinely good. It looks good. There's nothing in there that I was like, really, this is gonna suck, you know? Like, there are 2 isekai that I think are very generic, and one show that I was not completely sure about because the entire synopsis was very confusing and I don't think it's my cup of tea. And then a whole bunch of shows that could be either way or had no synopsis that I wouldn't know what to think of yet. So I have to either watch an episode or a trailer to figure out more. I hope you enjoyed this video and figured out a couple of anime you want to watch yourself. Do you agree with my assessments? Do you not agree? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you're still here, make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.